Okay, right. A very good evening, guys. Can you let me know if you can hear me and see a screen? Yes. Yeah, good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish off, Lamai, the two remaining parts of unit number 8. So unit number 8, we have the fiscal policy related parts to do. What we'll do is we'll have one session, ideally from around 6 to around 8 o'clock today. But sometimes maybe we can finish early also. That is the part on focus area 27. 27, right? 26, right? The one on fiscal policy, government revenue, and government expenditure. And then once that is done, we'll take like a half an hour break from 8:30 to around 10 o'clock. We will do focus area, the last one, that is 28. Right? So that is on government's debt, the budget balances, primary account surplus, all of that. We will be doing it on that. Okay, so we'll get started with this. There is a bit of a cartoon as well. Any guesses as to what the cartoon is about? There is someone throwing something. What's happening here? Yes, I'll give you a quick break to what once we do the MCQs. So the cartoon, guys, is about this. It's about the new government with all the anti-corruption measures that they have. Lamai, one thing that they had implemented was that all the ministers, all the public sector workers have to declare their assets. Declare their assets in the sense they have to publicly notify what and what they own, what are the property they own, how much of money they have, let's say how much of houses they have, where and where their investments are. So that's a declaration of assets. So all the ministers, all the top officials of different government institutes, so all of them had to do that. Some of it has kind of backfired on them itself. I'm not saying it's like a backfire, but then the media has now started questioning. There were certain like NPP ministers, it was all government service, Tama, but I'm not sure if there's a criteria, right? So then yes, all hidden people they'll get caught. But there were certain places where certain NPP ministers, some of their assets were pretty low, right? Now there was, can't remember the name of this guy. He has declared a vehicle worth around 200,000. So there is no vehicle in Sri Lanka where you can get for 200,000. So then what is that value? So there were some issues like that, right? Then there was certain other people who had a lot of assets and all of it. But it's not, there is no wrong of politicians having money as long as you have earned it legally. So what I saw, there was a interesting interview that Harsha, you all know Harsha, who is an economist as well. There was an interesting interview where like a kind of like a fun video. So it was something that the interviewer asked him, would you encourage the young generation to get into politics? So his answer there was no, right? The reason behind this is he gives a nice answer. So what he says is, so first you you learn, right? When you're young, that is your right now your time, you learn, then you earn, then you make the money, you become financially stable, you learn about how the whole world works, how the country works, how different things work. And then once all of that is done, once you are done making money, then you go into politics to give back to the people. And after that, you probably retire and have a good time. The problem with Sri Lankan people is they try to get into politics very early on, because his point makes very much sense, right? He says, politics is not a place that you can actually earn. So politicians don't get legally lamai, their salary and all is not a big amount. So you should not get into politics with the ambition of earning. You should do that beforehand. If once you're financially stable and once you have learned, now for example, lamai, I might know econ, but I can't become a politician. Lamai, I don't know how the actual things work sometimes. No? So maybe, let's say, for example, if I want to get into politics, maybe what I should right now do is I need to earn. I need to become financially stable. Plus, I need to also learn all the things, learn how everything works and all of it. Then maybe, let's say, by the time, let's say I'm 45 years, 50 years, Maybe then I can then get into politics. Let's say at around 50 years, I get into politics with all the experience I have. And until let's say 60 years, 65 years, you do like a 15-year of political things and then you retire. So I think that's a good concept, because what happens in Sri Lanka is people try to earn while being a politician. That is where the corruption comes in. So probably without being financially stable, without knowing all the things that is happening around, in your 25s, 30s, you start becoming a politician. So then what happens? Now you don't have the money to win. All the corruption and all of that starts. So it did make a lot of sense. There. So if any of you all are into politics, that could be a nice advice for you as well. Don't get into politics right away. First learn. Then do whatever job that you can, earn the money, become financially stable. Then you will have your investments and all of it. Then after that, that money will make more money. While that makes money, you sit back and you give back to the society, give back something to the people. Right. So that's a little bit on the cartoon and all of it. Coming to our past papers. So we are in focus area number 27. So in total, there are 35 focus areas, which we will finish off in the next 4-5 days. So focus area 27 is about fiscal policy, that is government's revenue and government's expenditure. There is not a lot of questions like we had in the morning session. So we should be able to finish it quite fast as well. So let's get started and get going. The faster you give me answers, the faster we can do it and faster we can finish off. So 2012 A-levels, question 35. If the economy is in a severe recession, which of the following fiscal policy is most effective in stimulating production? Now, if you're in a recession, should you have an expansionary or a contractionary fiscal policy? You need to have a expansionary fiscal. You try to expand the economy. So if you're running an expansionary fiscal policy, what should you do to government spending? What should you do with taxes? Government spending, you'll have to increase government spending. And what do you do with taxes? You reduce taxes. So see if there is an answer that talks about either both of these together or at least one of this. Answer number one, right? Increase government spending. Decrease spending, no. Increase personal tax, no. Sell securities, buy securities, those are monetary policy. So that is not fiscal policy. So then that is also gone. Answer 1. Easy one to start with. Then the next one. 2013 A-levels 35. A regressive tax. What is a regressive tax? A tax where all taxpayers pay the same absolute amount of their income in taxes. High income earners pay a lower proportion of their income in taxes than low income earners. High income earners pay less in taxes than low income earners. High income earners pay more in taxes than low income earners. Tax burden can be shifted backward. What's a regressive tax now? A regressive tax is where the rich people pay a lower proportion, not a lower tax. Now, if I am to give an example, let's say there are two people, person A and person B. So person A, let's say he is earning only 50,000 a month, and let's say he pays a tax of 5,000. So that means he is paying a 10% tax. He is earning 50,000, paying a 5,000 tax. Let's say person B is a rich guy. He is earning 1 million. He is earning 1 million. And let's say from this 1 million, let's say he pays 20,000 as tax. So he is paying more tax than the first person. First person paid only 5,000. This one is paying 20,000. But as a proportion of his income, that is only 2% of his income. So that is what you call a regressive tax. So don't go and say a regressive tax is where the rich person pays less tax. No, rich person is paying more tax. He's paying 20,000. Poor fellow is only paying 5,000. But as a proportion of his income, he is paying less. Be very careful there. This has been tested multiple times. You will see in the future MCQs also. So it's the proportion that you pay is less. So which one goes in line with that story then? Answer number 2. high income earners pay a lower proportion. Not number 3. You can't say high income earners pay less in tax. They are paying more tax, but percentage of income or proportion of their income, they pay less. Be careful. Okay. So 2013, 35 is 2. Then the next one, 2015. Fiscal policy involves government determining what? This is the easy one, Laman. Fiscal policy is about what? Government mainly controlling the what and what? Their government spending and their income, that is their taxes. And also, if you want to add something into this, you can talk about government debt also. So which one is the most correct answer? Which one goes in line with that? Government determining interest rates, money supply, tax and government spending, money supply, inflation rate. I think there's a small typing error also, but yeah, taxes and government spending. That's what the government tries to determine, no, with this whole fiscal policy. Then 2015 41. At present, the single largest tax revenue source in Sri Lanka. So for this, I put a few screenshots also in the slides at the bottom. Let me show you. So in 2023 and 24, the sources actually changed. So in 2023, the biggest source was Lamai income taxes. So when you say income taxes, that is personal income taxes, corporate income tax. It has a lot of components. It has, for example, your payee component. It has, for example, even withholding taxes and all goes under income taxes. So that has multiple components. Overall, you can think of it as a personal and corporate income tax. That is in 2023, income taxes. But coming into 2024, now which one is the bigger one? Now, VAT is the bigger one. And even in 25, most likely it will be VAT. So in case if they ask you right now, presently the same question, give the answer as VAT. If they specifically say in 2023, which was the bigger one, then income. If they say at present, which one is the bigger one? Present is the latest data you have. So you can say that. Be mindful of that. So I'm not very sure what the answer is in the past paper, but I will answer it based on right now what we have. Based on right now what we have, Lamai, your answer has to be that. At present, it's this. Remember, 2023, it was income taxes. That was the biggest. In 2024, it is VAT. 2025, the year is not over, but I will most likely see this. It will most likely be VAT, but there will be excise also coming up. I don't think excise might be number 1, but I feel excise will come up closer, but still it should be VAT that will have. Yeah, answer scheme, I'm not very sure what the answer is in 2015 level, but what I'm going through is right now, if you get this question, you go with VAT. Okay. There are some questions. No, excise is not the largest. Excise was the largest long time ago. Property taxes are direct taxes. Yeah, property taxes are direct taxes. Property taxes right now, we don't have property tax. Right? There is just the assessment tax that is there. There is no proper property tax in Sri Lanka. Then the next one, 2016. 2016 question number 34. When a regressive tax, income tax is in operation, the poor pay. What is answer 5? A pay tax now, that's a part of income taxes. That's the pay as you earn. When what is deducted from your salary itself, that's called the pay tax. What is this? Taxes that cannot be transferred to other parties, those are called direct taxes. Okay. What's the answer for this level? A regressive tax is where the poor pays a lower percentage, a larger rupee amount, a tax that varies. Yes, pay taxes are direct, right? Come on, what you're paying from your salary, now is it indirect? It's a direct tax. A smaller rupee amount, a higher percentage. Go with my previous story. What's a regressive tax? Where the poor person is Mr. A, no, in our example, he's paying a higher percentage than the other guy. Not a higher tax. He's paying less tax rupees, but the percentage he pays much higher. So he's paying a 10% tax. than the other one. So which one is your answer then? Answer number 5, a higher percentage of income than the other. Okay, done. Then 2017. 2017 is asking government revenue to GDP and the expenditure GDP in Sri Lanka approximately. So how much is it now, Lavan? I have given some charts here also. This is the numbers. So government revenue, if you take revenue, are they asking revenue and grants or only revenue? So if you take government revenue, in 2023, it was 11.1%. 2023 is government revenue. And in 2024, it is 13.5%. I did some estimates for office work. In 2025, the IMF target is for us to come to around 15.1 or 15.2. But based on the estimates I did for some office work, it looks like government revenue can even be more than 16% of GDP. So that is massive, right? Within a span of 3 years, from 2022 to 2025, within that 3 years, we doubled government revenue as a percentage of GDP. So actual numbers, it will come somewhere around March, April of next year. I'm just giving you my forecast. So hopefully we'll see. By that time, maybe you would have forgotten your econ also, but never mind. So then you can give these numbers. So maybe you can give this 24, around a 13.5%. And then when it comes to this expenditure, how much is our expenditure? In 2023, it was 19.5% of GDP. And now it's a 20.5%. I don't think they will increase taxes. It's just that overall economic activity is good. So much of vehicle imports. So there is a lot of excise duties there. People's incomes have gone up. Therefore, income taxes are high. The people are spending. So VAT collection is high. So they've done a lot of things. It's overall a lot of money is coming in. We've talked about that in our current context classes. So that's the numbers for government expenditure. So right now, maybe if you are giving the latest numbers, revenue you can give 2024 13.5%, expenditure you can give 20.5%. So better to know 2023 and 2024 both, because there's a big difference between 23 and 24 now. Unlike in other years when the years are very similar, but now there is huge improvements that are happening. So there is so much of things that is there. Should we write about the import bans? For revenue, no. Backward shifting is where you pass the tax back to your supplier. At your level, you don't have no that tax shifting part will come. Direct indirect. Okay. So 13.5 when 20.5. So the answer for this revenue will be at around a 13.5%. This is based on 2024 data. Expenditure will be at revenue 13.5, expenditure at around 20.5. If there is an answer in this, it could be number 3. Somewhere around there and there. But marking scheme may be different. Don't worry about the marking scheme answer. You worry about if this question comes in your year, how are you going to answer? If government revenue, yeah, you can even talk about, because of the import bans that was there, government revenue, especially with motor vehicle import bans, there were no excise duties. You can touch it. Then 2017, question 39. According to the relative importance on total expenditure, the main components of recurrent expenditure can be ranked as transfers to households, interest, salaries. Which one is the biggest? Here also I put some charts. Which ones are the biggest now? 23 and 24. The biggest component is interest payment out of recurrent. After that, after interest, then in 2023 to 24, that salaries and transfers part has changed a bit. In 2023, interest was number 1, salaries were number 2, transfers were number 3, 19 points. Now in 2024, interest is 1, transfers is number 2, and then you have salaries and wages. So there are small changes that have happened, but interest has always been number 1. Right now, the share of salaries and all is going down. Remember, we talked about how they had public sector hiring freezes, how they forced people to retire. We've talked about those in our current context classes, in our special seminar also, we talked about those. So those and all have helped salaries to come down. Current context now, if you all want to cover it up, there is this, right? So just to let you all know, I have a few extra books left. If anyone wants to cover up, I'll send you this. Yes, VAT is revenue. This is expenditure. Okay. What? In terms of, if you want to cover up current context, my fast track month 4. So month 4, the recordings, I have a few extra books that is there. If anyone is interested, you can purchase. So month 4 covers unit number 10, 11, and 12. Along with that, there is also an entire week where we discuss current context. So we talked about all the current context from unit number 7 up to unit number 12, everything that you can get practically, all what is that. So that's available. I'll see how many books and all are left, and I'll maybe share a message on the past paper class group with the price and all if anyone wants. Most likely can give it around half the rate of the fast track, because there will not be any papers that will be marked and given, but you can watch the recordings and you can cover it up. Okay. MCQ series, I couldn't find the time to open registrations because I couldn't find the time to make the flyer. Most likely, if I find some time tonight, or most likely tomorrow, I will open registrations for the MCQ series. Yeah, I wanted to open today, but just got too packed with classes. Okay, so then this one, what you can go with, Lamai, if you're going with, let's say, this one is their answer in 2000. So it has to be, interest has to be the biggest one. I don't think there's exactly an answer in this. So right now, this is based on 2024. Interest payments, transfers to households, not public corporations, transfers to households is number 2. And then salaries and wages is number 3. This is expenditure. Right. So if you pay the fee today for the MCQ, no problem. You can fill the form once the registration form is sent. Transfers also is yes. No, transfers can be, there can be transfers to public corporations also. For example, if your state-owned enterprises are making losses, government transfers money. But those are mainly capital though, not a lot of current. Okay. Then that is 2017. I don't think there's an answer here, but just jot it down. These should be the ones for this. Then 2018. 18 is saying, so you can, you need to know 2023 and 24 data both, right? I would have told you all this multiple times. So know the latest ones, both the years. The principal sources of tax revenue in Sri Lanka. So you can go with 2024. You have VAT, you have income taxes, and then you have excise duties. Anything that goes in that line? You can go with number 1 because they haven't said in order. No. In this question, they haven't said principal, the main tax was in order or something. So then if you're given the top 3, these are the top 3. But remember, VAT is 1, income is 2, and excise is 3. This is in 2020. Then 2018, 39. The appropriate fiscal policy to combat a recession would be the increase of what? Same thing was there. No, our very first question we did. What will you increase? You will increase government spending. Remember, not money supply. Money supply is monetary policy. So increase government spending or decrease taxes. Or in other words, you can say run a budget deficit. Running a budget deficit means increasing spending and cutting taxes. That is also okay. Then 2019, 35. The biggest component of recurrent expenditure. What's the biggest component? I showed you 23 and 24 both. It's interest payment. Probably in 2019 also it would have been interest payment. The answer marking scheme should also have one. Okay. Then 2020, the main components of recurrent expenditure, same thing. So right now in 2024 now, you will go with interest, the current transfers to households, and then salaries. Okay, so maybe one that they haven't asked in order or anything. No? So you can go with, you can cut in lamai. Metana, you acquisition of real assets are capital. Capital transfers are capital. Amortization payments are debt repayments. Those don't come. Acquisition of final assets, no. So then you can go with number 3. Okay. So see, same question again and again and again. Boruwata, they keep on twisting around. Then 2020, 34. A regressive tax is a tax where the poor have a higher percentage of their income taxed than the rich. The poor pays a bigger percentage than the rich. Again, same thing. Third time they're asking regressive tax. 2020, another one. The prominent source of government revenue of central government at present. 2024, what is the biggest? 2024, it's VAT, right? Value added taxes. So you can go with taxes on production and expenditure. VAT and all, VAT, excise and all go under this. Taxes on income is income taxes. In 23, income taxes is the largest. In 2024, VAT is the largest. Okay. But in general, if you take Lama in Sri Lanka, indirect taxes are bigger than direct taxes. So indirect taxes, VAT, excise, import duties, all are indirect. No. So all the indirect put together are bigger than direct. So that could be there. If they ask without a year lama, you can give 24. I think if they say most recent year, then 24. PAL is lama ports and aviation levy. That's like an import duty. When goods come to the ports, there is a small tax, like an import duty kind of a thing. That. Then 2022. The highest component of government recurrent expenditure. Same thing, I mean, was what? Now see here, they have specifically mentioned the year. In the year 2020 was what? So in the year 2020. So right now, Lama, all the years recently, recurrent expense, the biggest one is interest payments. Then 2023, vertical equity. That is a tax on the value addition. It's on the production, but it's passed on to the consumer. Vertical equity in taxation holds that. What is vertical equity? Those with equal ability should bear equal tax burden. What is that, Lama? People with equal ability pay equal tax burden. That is horizontal equity, you know. So horizontal equity. Then not this. Those who benefit the most from the government should bear the high tax burden. Those with greater ability to pay should bear higher burden. Is that correct? Vertical equity means people who can bear more and more should pay more and more tax. Correct? So then that is that. Those with equal ability should bear more? No. So for you, Lamai, once again, you all need to know 2023 and 24 data for your answers. Okay, so all of this, no 23 and 24 both. Then 2024. Very annoying, no? A main feature of a regressive tax can be stated as the 4th time or 5th time they're asking for regressive tax. For some reason, at least change the question to ask about a progressive tax. At least change and ask about a proportional tax. Regressive. Probably there is something that the examiner likes about regressive. So which one is the answer? In a regressive tax, low tax income earners pay a higher proportion of their income than high income earners. Marginal tax rate exceeds average. That is in what line? Where does the marginal tax rate? Yes, maybe the examiner line is paying a lot of regressive. Marginal tax rate exceeds average tax rate in what type of tax? In a progressive tax. In a regressive lamai, average tax rate is more than marginal. Then, yeah, maybe in your exam, they can ask progressive, or for some reason, if the examiner always likes regressive, but 24 regressive, I doubt he will again repeat in 2025. So maybe in your year, it could be progressive or maybe something else. Cost of collecting tax exceeds revenue, nothing like that. Marginal tax rate is higher for high income. Tax rate increases, no. Okay. Right. So if he hopefully likes regressive yet, then that is a free mark for you. Okay, that's it with the MCQs. Very easy, no? Same thing, echo may revenue sources or expenditure sources or regressive tax. Three main things that we identified as a trend. How did you all do? Out of there were 18 questions, but some of it were a bit of current context. So yeah. Okay. There are two more. Sorry, did I not put the questions? Okay, let me go to the Qt tab. Do that. Hold on. Sorry. PDF has two more. Yeah, this is the Qt. Let me share the Qt on my laptop. This one. There are more. Okay. So what are the answers? This is 2024. 2024 question number 33. What is the most accurate statement about the impact of transfer payments on fiscal policy? So transfer payments are these Samurdhi, Asvasu, and all of that. What can you say? Transfer payments directly affect aggregate demand by increasing government expenditure. Transfer payments do not affect the budget deficit as they are not a part of government expenditure. Transfer payments increase government spending without directly contributing to production of goods and services. Transfer payments encourage economic growth. Transfer payments can influence aggregate demand by reducing disposable income. That's a good question, I feel. How are you going to get the answer there? I would say narrow down your answers first. Okay, cut off the most obvious ones. Transfer payments will reduce disposable income. That is wrong. When you have more and more transfers, if you give more and more pensions and all, people's disposable income will increase. So that answer I will cut off now. Here I will just highlight it in red. Okay, that is cut. Then I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Transfer payments encourage growth by stimulating investment. Is that correct? When you have pensions and samurdhis, will that generate investment? Investment comes from firms, no matter. So you can't say that. Then I will cut off that answer, right? So I'm now narrowing down the answers. Okay, now we are left with 3 answers. Transfer payments directly affect aggregate demand. If you all think of Lama unit number 6 wala poddak hitanna. Aggregate demand is C plus I plus G plus net exports. Does transfer payment directly affect aggregate? No, right? Transfer payments are a component of it. Transfer payments will affect your disposable income. Disposable income will only go and affect your consumption. It indirectly affects. Same thing like taxes. Taxes also don't directly affect aggregate demand. Taxes will affect your disposable income. Disposable income affects your consumption. Then only it gets affected. So then that is also wrong. Then that also I will cut off. Transfer payments directly affect. Wrong. Okay. Then we have 2 answers left. Transfer payments do not affect the budget deficit as they are not a part of government expenditure. What do you think? Government is giving more and more samurdhi, aswasuma, all of it. Do you think, Lama, it will not affect budget deficit? Can you say transfer payments do not affect budget deficit? If they give more and more samurdhi and all, definitely it will, right? So it will affect. So you can't say it won't affect. Then that is also wrong. See, one by one, Lama, argue and cut off. And then now you're left with 3. Transfer payments increase government spending. Okay. Without directly contributing to the production of goods. That's what we say. No, transfer payments are just, you're just giving money, Lamai. Now, for example, salaries is Lamai, you're paying salaries, the people are producing something for you. Teachers are teaching. You're paying a salary. But you're paying pensions and samurdhi and all, you're just giving money. There is no any production activity. That's why we say transfer payments are not a part of GDP. It's non-productive. So that is your correct answer. Answer number. Have a lot of colors here. I'll put that in green. Okay, so 3 is your correct answer. Then 34. 34 is asking the main contributors to the significant rise in tax revenue after 2022. So after 2022, which ones actually contributed? Again, it's a bit of current context there. Income taxes, import duties, economic surcharge, special commodity income value added excise, tax on foreign value added. So what are the main 3, Lamai? The main 3 that this one. you can give these, right? Income value added than this one. Now in 2025, Lamai, you also have import duties that are contributing. The transfer payment story, once again, why is the correct third one the correct answer? Transfer payments now increase government spending. That part is correct. No? The more and more pensions and more samurdhi payments they'll do, aswasma payments they'll do, that will increase government spending. But that doesn't directly contribute to the production of a good or service because those are transfers. Now. Transfers are unilateral payments, right? You don't get anything in return. No? Now, for example, if the government does a capital spending, if they spend on a highway, on the highway gets produced. They spend on salaries, on the teachers are teaching, right? Some production is happening. But you're giving pensions, that is just unilateral transfer. That's why we say without directly contributing to production of goods and services. Okay, is that fine? Okay, now how much do you all do get? If you combine all of it together, out of, I think, there were how many MCQs? Not very sure how many MCQs. How much? How can it not affect budget deficit? It will affect budget deficit. That's why I'm saying number 3. When you have government spending, it does affect budget deficit. No, contribute means there is no production. There's a contributing doesn't mean investment, but doing something. Okay. Let me share back my other screen. Okay, so apart from if you leave the current context funds out, how much did you all get? Maybe it's hard to get how much right, but at least how much did you get wrong? I think there was around 18 odd questions, maybe at least, maybe maximum 3 or 4 wrong. I think you're okay. Maximum. Good. So then we'll quickly go into the essay questions. So essay questions also you will see similar kind of questions are getting repeated again and again. Because if you missed a question you can check the past paper book. Yes, transfer payments are one-way payments. We call it unilateral transactions. Okay, so I'll quickly do they'll want a break now. If you want, I can give you a break. I was wondering if I can finish this off soon. Okay, we'll take a break and come in. Yeah. So it's 6:44. I'll give you a 10-minute break. Right? Quickly take a break and come, and then we'll go through the essay questions that we have. So it's 6:45. I'll give you 10 minutes. You can take a break until 6:55 and come back. Okay? Take a break and come. Okay, so we'll start, guys, with the essay questions. The faster we can finish, we can call it off, and then we can start the next part at 8:30. Okay, so 2011 essay questions, part 4. They're saying, what are the major sources of tax revenue of Sri Lanka at present? Same MCQ they have given. So what can you write, Lama? You can give these up, the 2024 ones, you can give. And there is no order, no. So you can say VAT, income taxes, excise duties. You can say PAL, that is ports and aviation levy. You can talk about import duties. And then other taxes, don't write other taxes now. Inside other taxes only, you have this small withholding tax, social security contribution, social security levy. Small stuff comes under that. So it's a unknown. It's a 4-mark question. So if you give the 4 main stuff, that is enough. VAT, income, excise, and import duties. You can also give ports and aviation levy. That 5 marks and then give 5. So then give import duties and ports and aviation levy separately, apart from the top 3. Okay, that question is done then. Then going to the next one. 2011 part 5. Question 7 part 5. Always remember unit number 8 is question 7. No? Over 17% of current expenditure of the government comprises of transfers to households. Identify 5 major items coming under this category. So what and what do you have, Lamai, under transfers to households? What and what is that? Methane. So the three main categories are here. You have pensions, you have aswasuma payments, you have fertilizer subsidy. Then apart from that, Lamai, there is free textbooks and school uniforms. There is what else? A midday meal for school students. There is transfers for the disabled people. Disabled people get a certain amount. Yes, you can talk about the Mahapola scholarship. So all of that you can give. So all of those will go under other, right? So instead of all of this, you can talk about free uh, textbooks and uniforms. You can give, no, now it's Aswasam. Earlier it was Samudri. Yeah. Earlier it was called Samudri, now it's Aswasam. Okay, you can talk about Mahapola, Mahapola scholarships. You can talk about Lamai midday meal. Right? So fertilizer subsidy is there. So apart from the top three, so top three is pensions, aswasuma, and fertilizer subsidy. Then apart from that, you can give. Samurdhi don't right now. Samurdhi is the one that was replaced with aswasuma. So you don't have Samurdhi anymore now. Aswasuma is the one is being replaced. Food subsidy is the midday meal and all of that. So same stuff. Yeah. So if you can write those, Lama, and they are asking you just what those are, no? So you don't have to explain also. They're just asking to identify. So as long as you state 5, that is more than enough. Now, that's 2011. Then going to 2012. 2012, part 2. Question 7, part 2. Distinguish between statutory tax, tax, statutory tax incidents and economic tax incidents. Medicine as government, I don't think it's a big one though. Okay. So what is statutory tax incidents, Lama? Statutory tax incidents, or we call it a legal tax incident. This is who is legally. The main question, Lama, is question number 7. No? Number 8 is always question number 7. So statutory tax incidents is the what? Is the legal. So who is legally responsible of paying a tax? So if a tax is imposed, who is legally responsible of pay? That is what you call the statutory tax incidents. For 2 marks now, explain that story. Right? So you can talk about this. And then what is economic tax incidents, Namai? Who actually ends up bearing the tax burden? In other words, you can say the party whose real income, is affected due to the tax. So if I'm to give you a example to explain this story. Okay, so let's take a story of government saying, Arshad, for every student that you have to pay a tax of how much? Let's say 200 rupees. So government comes and says, Arshad, for every student, pay a tax of 200 rupees. So who is legally responsible of paying this tax? You or me? Who will go to jail if this tax is not paid? Me, right? I am the one who will go into jail. But let's say, as a result of this, what I do is, next month, your class fees, I increase it by 200 rupees. I say, look, here, my mahara case, tax and I increase your class fees by 200. So I am the one legally responsible. But who is actually bearing the burden? Whose real income gets affected because of the tax? Whose? That is yours, right? And that is what you call now an economic tax incident. So statutory tax incidence is who is legally responsible to pay. Economic tax incidence is who actually bears the burden. So now if you take Lamai a direct tax, now a direct tax is a tax that you can't transfer Lamai. Now take for example something like personal income taxes. Now if you take a direct tax, what can you say? The statutory and economic tax incidence, will it be on different people or will it be on the same person? It will be on the same person. Now, if you take my income tax, I am the one legally responsible to pay. And my income is the one that actually gets affected also. I can't transfer income tax to you. No? So direct taxes, In a direct tax lamai, the statutory tax incidence and the economic tax incidence is with the same person. So with the same person. But if you take a indirect tax, taxes like VAT, excise duty, those stuff lamai, will it be on the same person? It can be on the same person, but most likely no, because it gets transferred. How much of a tax you can transfer lamai depends on what? We learned that in unit number 3. Who will bear most of the burden will depend on elasticity. Elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. So whoever who is more inelastic will bear most of the burden. Now, if I know, no matter what happens, if you're going to come to my class, I will pass the 200 to you. But if I think if I increase classes by 200, if all of you all stop coming, then I will bear that 200. So if you are inelastic, I'll pass it on to you. So in an indirect tax lamai, because you can shift, indirect tax is something that you can shift. No? So if you can shift the burden, then what happens? The statutory and economic might be with two different parties. The extent to which you can shift will depend on elasticity. Yes. So to a fast food, yeah, things like, for example, when you go to a restaurant and when you eat, so you pay that. Legally, the firm is responsible of paying. They are transferring it to. So you can do it. So indirect taxes can be transferred. Then statutory and economic will be in two different parties. Direct taxes can't be transferred. Then the statutory and economic tax incidence is on the same person. Okay, so just overall, you can write this. No, transferring tax to another person is not economic tax now. Economic tax means who actually ends up bearing the thing. That's what economic tax incidence is about. Who actually bears the tax. Okay. Then the next one, 2012, question 7, part 3. What is meant by neutrality of taxation? What is neutrality? Format the answer for 2 marks explain statutory, 2 marks explain economic. What's neutrality? Neutrality, yes, another name is efficiency. Direct taxes, statutory, and for direct taxes, what you say is for direct taxes, the statutory tax burden and the economic tax burden is on the same person. For an indirect tax, the statutory and the economic can be on two different people because you can transfer the tax. Okay. What is meant by neutrality? Neutrality is, yes, another name for this is efficiency, but efficiency now you would explain that. What is neutrality? Now, so neutrality of taxes is where a tax should not affect the resource allocation process. In other words, it should not create a deadweight loss. So if I am to explain this story to you, now let's say if the government comes and says, Arshad, for every student that you have to pay a tax of 2,000 rupees. Will that affect me? Will I reduce my supply as a result of it? I might, because 2,000 is a big cost line. So then that tax is not neutral. It has affected the resource allocation process. So because of that, now I will cut down my classes, or people who are working with me, they might lose their job. All of that can happen. It's not neutral. But what if the government comes and tells me, Arshad, for every student that you have to pay 100 rupee tax. Will that really affect me? Will I really go and cut down my classes and reduce the number of students? And I won't do that, right? And that is neutrality level. So you have to tax in a way that people don't feel it. That's what you call neutrality. You have to tax in a way that it will not affect the resource allocation process. Now, if you tax and as a result, let's say firms are cutting down production, or they shut down and go, people are unemployed, then neutrality. A tax is being neutral here. Neutrality, or we call it efficiency, means you tax it in a way it doesn't affect the resource allocation. In a way that supplier will not reduce his supply. If you all remember unit number 3, When you put a tax, supply reduces. No? Then that is where a deadweight loss gets created. But if you tax it in a way that he doesn't really feel, supply won't reduce. No? If the government comes and says, Arshad, for every student pay ₹100 tax, Mama gihila supply adu karanne naha, I'm not going to reduce my supply as a result of that. Because it doesn't really affect me that much. So that's what you call neutrality. Okay. Yes, it's one of the qualities of a good tax system. Now for this question, don't talk about all the qualities. You just have to explain this. When the customers argue about tax burden being transferred to them, as it actually being paid by the business. No, the customers will pay. Now, for example, think of motor vehicles. So all the motor vehicles that you import, the import duty, the excise duty on vehicles, the VAT on vehicles, all of it has to be borne by the importer. But all of them, they pass it to the customer. So you can pass. That's not a problem. So if you don't like it, then don't pay. Then don't buy the good. If you don't want to pay the tax, don't buy the good. Okay. Okay, 2012. Question 5. Main question 7, part 5. Identify the major non-tax revenue sources. So what are the non-tax revenue sources? We'll look at the chart again. Non-tax, what and what do you have here? You have fees and charges, and that is there. Then you have lamai rent and interest income. You have profits and dividends. Apart from this, now you write phone other never. Apart from this, what else can you write? So these are the main ones. Fees and charges, rent and interest income, profits and dividends. Anything else? Anything inside the other? So there are, you can talk about lamai stamp duties again. So stamp duties, lottery income. You can put it. Fines and penalties, but that will also go under fees and charges sometimes. But yeah, fines maybe you can, but I'm not very clear whether it goes under fees and charges or not, but you can give. Donations, no, donations will not be non-tax revenue, that will be grants. Stamp duties, yeah, usually when you buy land and all, but stamp duties also, I will say sometimes not right, it can be considered as a tax income also. License fees, yes, you can give those points. Okay. So when there was a question on this, so when you're talking about this current context, remember 2023 and 2024. You don't have to know very old ones only. Okay. Right, so that is also done. Okay, so this one, whatever we had in that slide, you can write. Then 2013, outline the desirable properties of a good tax system. Now this was there in the future also. So what are the properties of a good tax system? So one thing you can write is the one that we discussed before, neutrality. So outline can lamai for around 2 lines with a product explain. So what is neutrality? You tax in a way that it does not affect the resource allocation process. No, previous one you just have to identify. Identify means just state. These principles of a good tax system, yes. So neutrality, what else do you have? You have equity, right? Tax in a way that it is fair. Talk about that. Then economical convenience, you can talk about those also. Sorry. Give me a second, my pen has ran out of battery. Okay, right? Flexibility, certainty, convenience, all of that. For around small 1 to 2 lines, product liyan also. Don't just keep it there. You can talk about economical. Economical, equity, certainty. Okay, certainty, and then maybe even flexibility or rigidity. I will not give it as this one. That is more like certainty at all. Okay, convenience. That's also fine. So don't. What I will recommend now, 4 marks. 4 marks, 4 points. Give a small. That's the. Yes, neutrality is what I explained in the previous question. Now, this neutrality in 2012 part 3. I hope you were not daydreaming. So then talk about this. So neutrality is where you tax in a way that it doesn't affect the resource allocation process. So the supply doesn't really feed it and you won't reduce supply. Economical is where you have to reduce the amount of money spent to collect the tax, and even for the taxpayers to pay the tax. Because otherwise, now, for example, let's say now to collect tax, you have a tax department and all of it. You're spending salaries and rent and all of it of 1 million, but you're collecting a tax of only 800,000. Doesn't make sense, no? So economical means you have to reduce the amount of expenditure you make to collect the tax. That's it. There is no point. Right. That is done. Then the next one. 2013 part 5. Explain the ways in which fiscal policy can reduce income inequality. How can you use fiscal policy Lamai to reduce income inequality? Give me a few methods. You can talk about Lamai progressive taxes. Definitely talk about this. So one way of reducing income inequality is by charging progressive tax. Now you have to explain that a little. Lamai. You can say, for example, by charging what? Let's say a progressive income taxes. Okay, you can do this. So then you charge taxes from the rich people. So then those people, you can take that money and give it to the poor. You can also say, Lamai, tax on luxury goods. So tax on luxury goods. So that's why we have Lamai on these big high-end vehicles, Land Cruisers, Prados, Lamai has a huge tax because those gun rich people, Anna, you do that. And what can you do with that money? With that money, Lamai, Anna, you can provide for the fixed income earner, retired people, you can give pensions. Then you can provide Lamai Aswasuma payments. Then for students and all, Lama, you can talk about withholding is not a very important one. Okay, so you can talk about this. Okay, you can talk about the Mahapola scholarships. You can talk about Lamai free education and healthcare. Okay, so providing those free education and healthcare. Right. Okay. Yes, a neutrality tax is what I explained in this question, right? I hope you didn't miss that. So neutrality is where you tax in a way that it doesn't affect the resource allocation process. So you tax in a way that people will not really go and reduce their supply or demand. So you tax in a way that people don't really feel it. That's what neutrality is about. Mahapola Islam, that is for university students. There is a fixed amount of 7,500 that they get. Withholding taxes usually on the interest and all that you earn from bank accounts and all, there is this. No, there's no full form. The full form is Mahapola. Mahapola scholarship. Okay. Right. So you can talk about, but remember now you can't just write points here, right? Now you have to explain. So ideally you can break this into 2 points and explain. So one paragraph talk about how you charge the taxes from the rich people, income taxes, taxes on luxury, these things, maybe even property taxes, and from the rich people, you can do that. And then you talk in another paragraph how you can give that money to the poor. You can give it to the retired poor people, the pensions, the really poor people, Aswasuma payments. You can give it to the poor students in the university, that is for Mahapola. So Mahapola, the poor students will also get, plus also if you have a good island rank also, you will get. There are two criteria. And then government can use it for free education and stuff. So all of that will then help reduce income inequality. So nicely break it to 2 paragraphs, structure your answer nicely and write. Don't just randomly give points in one big paragraph. Then 2040, classify government expenditure according to the economic classification. How is it classified, Lamai? How many lines can Lamai? As long as you write it in detail, it's fine. So 2 paragraphs, maybe at least 1 paragraph around, let's say 5-6 lines. 1 paragraph. So you have recurrent. It would be nice if you can break it down. Like, so you have recurrent expenditure. Inside recurrent expenditure, what and what do you have? There's 5 marks. Instead of just saying recurrent capital net lending, break it in detail. You have expenditure on goods and services. Inside this only, you have salaries. Then you have interest payments. And then you have transfers. So current transfers, you can give it as that, current transfer. Then you have my capital expenditure. So under capital expenditure, what and what do you have? You have 2. What are the 2? acquisition of real capital, acquisition of real capital, and you have capital transfers. And then you can also give Lama net lending. So net lending is anything that doesn't come into all of this goes under net lending. So net lending is usually these temporary loans and all that they kind of give. Okay. That was a question. Are there any suggested questions to the exam? That depends on you. If you're a very weak student, I would say maybe 1, 2, 3, and question 6 and 7. Government teachers, they don't get Mahapola. I'm also not very sure because they probably have this thing, but there are some other scholarships that they can apply for. There is bursary and different other things. Okay, that's 2014, part 2. 2015. 15, question 3. Define proportional, progressive, and regressive taxes. Just to define them. What is a proportional tax? How do you define it? It is a tax where the equal and how are you defining it? It's a tax where same proportion, right? So it's a tax where the proportion of tax paid, proportion means percentage. Proportion of tax paid remains unchanged. Remains unchanged when income changes. So even when income increases or decreases, the proportion that you pay will remain unchanged. So if it's 10% now, you'll always pay 10%. So all taxpayers pay the same proportion. Correct. Then what's a progressive tax, Namai? A progressive tax is where the proportion of tax that you pay increases when your income increases, or we can say when your tax base increases. So when your income increases, you write the full form. So when your income increases, the proportion of tax that you pay will also. What is a regressive tax? Commonly tested in the MCQ. That is where when your income increases, the proportion of tax that you pay will start coming down. So for 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark, explain the 3 of that. Can we tell that there are both high income earners and low income earners the same proportion? Yeah, that's also fine. Yes, as long as you define it somehow giving the proper meaning, that is okay. Okay. Then 2015 part 4. What is meant by excess burden of taxation? Show graphically the excess burden when a unit tax is imposed on the producer of a good. So excess tax burden that is the dead weight loss. Now this same question is there in our latest paper also. So there I copied and pasted the answer. I will go to that and I will explain that. Then we can come back to this. Okay, so here in the 2023 A-level paper, same question is there. What is meant by excess burden of taxation? So I'm saying excess burden of taxation, also known as the deadweight loss, refers to what? The economic inefficiency caused due to the misallocation of resources. Remember, we talk about what is deadweight loss. Deadweight loss is the inefficiency caused by not producing the allocatively efficient level of output, right? Because when there is a tax, you end up underproducing the good. You see, this is called the excess burden because it is an additional burden to the fiscal burden of tax. So in addition to having to pay the tax, now there is also an inefficiency that is caused here. That's why it's called the excess tax burden. Then they are saying it represents a loss of economic welfare that occurs because of taxes, distort incentives, and alter the behavior of consumers and businesses. When you have a tax now, it affects the behavior of consumers and businesses. Consumers will reduce their demand, producers will reduce their supply. And as a result, what happens now? You have a misallocation of resource. You have an inefficiency in resource allocation that gets created. And then in that other question, you can give the same story. And you can now, they're asking you to draw and explain this with a diagram. So draw the diagram in unit number 3. Unit number 3, your tax diagram. Draw that. So they're saying when there's a tax on producers, draw and show how is this created. So this is your equilibrium price and quantity. When there is a tax, what happens? The supply curve shifts to the left. This is your new equilibrium price and quantity. And this area becomes your dead weight loss scale. So draw the diagram, label it, and ideally show the story. So if you have done that along with this explanation, you will get your full marks. So label diagram as supply curve before, supply curve after, all of that same unit number 3 diagram. So that's the 2023 question. Same question is there in 2015 as well. So coming back to the 15 question, what is meant by excess tax burden? Same answer you can write. Show it graphically. That's what I draw and showed. Then 2016 question 7 part 3. What are the objectives of taxation? Why do you put taxes now? Why does the government tax people? To collect revenue, to fund government expenditure. That is one reason. Another reason, to minimize income inequality. So to minimize income inequality. Okay. Then to control aggregate demand. So you can increase or reduce aggregate demand by doing this, right? To control aggregate demand. Then to minimize the consumption of demerit goods. Minimize or reduce the consumption of demerit goods. That can be your objective. To control aggregate supply. Control market failure, you would give this one there. Be more specific there. Repay loan, not really. You can say collect revenue to fund government expenditure. Don't say repay loan. To protect infant industries, that could be a thing, right? So maybe import duties is to protect your domestic, when you have tariffs and all, that could be to protect your local industries. Okay. So to protect local industries, you go and tax whom? Local infant industries, you go and tax the foreign guys. And you can give stuff like that. So any four objectives. Why do you tax? To, you can say control aggregate demand. Don't say promote aggregate supply. You don't need tax to promote aggregate supply, but you can say control aggregate supply. To, yes, control BOP, manage BOP deficits, you might have import duties. Fine. So you can given that. Control monopoly is not the best point, I would say. Okay. So this you can write. Then the next one. 2016 question 4. Yes, aggregate demand will get intake again. Mention the desirable properties of a good tax system. Same thing here in properties of a good tax system. Now earlier they asked you to outline. Here they are not even asking you to outline. They're just asking you to mention. So mention neutrality, economical, equity, certainty, flexibility. Just as long as you mention, you will get your marks. So this is same thing as 2013 question 7 part 3, no? Yeah. Part 3, yeah. 17, no, part 4. Question 7, part 4. Decrease aggregate disposable income, you can connect that with aggregate demand. Don't give that as main. Then 2016, now there's another one. List the major components of recurrent expenditure of Sri Lanka. Easy enough. So major component recurrent is nama, you have expenditure on goods and services. So inside this, you have mainly 90% of it is salaries and wages. Then you have nama interest. So interest, if you want, you can break down and give us domestic interest and foreign interest. And then you have transfers. So transfers, well, you have pensions, you have aswasuma payments, you have fertilizer subsidies, and again, break and give. 4 marks. So instead of just giving this, and this, product break it and give. Mahapola will not be a major one. It's not that big. Okay. That's 2016. Then 2017. What are the major sources of excise tax revenue in Sri Lanka? They are not asking you major sources of taxes. In excise taxes, what are the major ones? What do you all think? So this I remember I didn't know 4. I did A levels in 2017. I did not know four at that point. So I know alcohol and tobacco. So cigarettes, alcohol, tobacco or cigarettes will put together. What else? You have on motor vehicles, Lamai. There is a lot of excise duties there. Plus also you can put on Lamai petroleum. So you can give those four. Those are the main ones where you will have excise duties. Alcohol, tobacco or cigarettes, motor vehicles and petrol. Crude oil will go under petrol. Then the 2018. 18 question number 3. Question 7. Always remember this unit 8 is question number 7 now. Question 7 part 3. Currently our major exports are crude oil. Guys, exports are not crude oil, exports are garments. Petroleum re-exports are third, not this. By petroleum, you should ask the government. So they put limit, discourage consumption. Cigarettes and tobacco, I would say put it as 1 point, kind of similar. Don't give it as 2. Okay. Then 2018 part 3. Distinguish between vertical equity and horizontal equity. So what's the difference? Vertical equity, remember you had an MCQ also. So vertical equity, now equity means making it fair. No? What is vertical equity? Is that when people's ability to pay, right? So ability to pay increase, right? When their income increases, right? So when rich people ability to pay increases, their tax burden should also increase. So the higher the income, you have to pay more and more tax then. Okay. If you're earning less income, then pay less tax. That's called vertical equity. What is horizontal equity? Horizontal equity is people at the same level. People at the same level should bear the same proportion of tax. That is called horizontal. So if everyone is, let's say all of us are earning 100,000, then all of us should be paying the same amount, right? Otherwise, it's unfair if you're paying more and I'm paying less. So you charge a equal amount for people with similar income levels. That is that. So example is that line. If all of us are earning 100,000, all of us should be paying the same proportion. I can't be paying 20% and you can't be paying 10%. So you keep it equal that way. That's called a horizontal equity. Vertical equity is the higher and higher you earn, you will pay more and more tax. That's why we have progressive taxes. The more and more you earn, you end up paying. So Sri Lankan tax system to some extent is equitable. That's okay. Okay. Right. 2019. 19. Explain why taxes are necessary for a country and briefly outline the desirable properties of a good tax system. So why are taxes necessary for a country? What are they indirectly asking? They're asking you for the what of taxes. Question was there before. They're asking you the objectives of taxes. Why should you have taxes? Why are taxes necessary? So you can say taxes are needed in order to fund government expenditure. Taxes are needed in order to what? In order to control the consumption of demerit goods, in order to reduce income inequality, to control aggregate demand. So what we had in the previous question, you can write. So now, instead of giving it as points, since they are saying explain, you put that in a paragraph. In a 2-mark paragraph, explain the objectives of taxation. And then the next part of the question is saying, outline the properties. So outline the properties is the same question as 2013 A levels question 7 part 4. Neutrality, this thing, same thing, you write neutrality, equity, all of it, you can give. That's the story. Flexibility, yes. So it's the same question, right? They've just combined 2 questions together. That's what they have done. 2019, question 7, part 4. Then the next one, 2020. What are the non-tax revenue sources of the government in the recent year? Same thing you can write. So 2020, you can write these non-tax revenue. Write the main 3, fees and charges, rent and interest income, profits and dividends, write those three. Then apart from that, Lama, you can write lottery income, fines, license fees, all of that is okay. Stamp duty, I would say maybe not right, because stamp duty may be a tax revenue source actually. I'm not very sure how the exact is classified. I'll let you know, but maybe you can avoid stamp duty. If it's there in the marking scheme, then right. But otherwise, you can give in things like this. Write the main three plus another one or two as non-tax revenue sources. That is 2020. Then the next one, licenses also, that's a bit of an issue. I'll look in the other ones and I'll let you know what the other specific ones are. Rent and interest can break into two also, but even as one is okay. If you want, you can break into two. Then probably marking scheme has it broken into two, rent and interest. Check 2020 levels. Then you can break it into two. I'm giving based on central bank report, breaking into one. That's okay, because rent is different, interest is different. Okay, 2022. Compare the merits and demerits of direct, this is has to be and indirect taxes. Now that's a nice one. That's the first time they ask a question like that. So there are merits and demerits can the advantages and disadvantages. So advantages plus disadvantages of direct and indirect. What are the good and the bad sides? So you all tell me, what is the, we'll take direct taxes first. So direct taxes are things like income taxes. What are the advantages? What are the okay, we'll say merits team, we'll use the same word as this one. What are the merits? What are the demerits? Tell me the good thing about a direct tax level. The good side about it is it's equitable. People with high levels of income will end up paying that. So this one you can say, the merits here is it is more equitable. Now make it anit pattadama you can say, right? So you can say, for example, for indirect taxes are taxes on goods and services. So the demerit of that indirect taxes, they are what? They can be unfair, right? So no, advertisement overall, not government point of view. So you can talk about it being unfair. Now, it might not be equitable because it mostly ends up becoming regressive. The poor person pays a bigger burden. Then anything else? You can use it to control disposable income. Correct. So can be used to control disposable income. Okay. Anything else? No, merit can't be transferred. Falls on people who can afford to pay, that's equitable. We can give it that. Easy to collect is also okay, but I feel indirect is more easier to collect. Have they given easy to collect as a merit for direct taxes? In the marking scheme, what about? It's easy to collect, but I feel indirect is more easier because indirect, now if you take direct taxes, now income taxes and all, people have to file income taxes, right? You will go and file, show your income, calculate, then every quarter you have to pay. But indirect taxes, automatically whenever you buy a good, it gets paid. So I will say something like this one, you will say easy to collect. Easy to collect. In direct taxes, the issue with direct taxes are, it can be this one. People can, somehow hide, then they can do. You can talk about that. So direct taxes, you can say this. The direct taxes discourage hard work. Now that is why we had a lot of brain drain after the economic crisis when they had huge amounts of taxes. So people had very high levels of income. Imagine you study hard, then you work for around 10-15 years and you come to a good level where you're earning, let's say, 1 million salary. From the 1 million salary, 36% tax, what do you have? So then you get discouraged, no? So discouraging hard work. You can talk about that. Then you can say, easy to avoid. right? So there can be like tax evasion here. So people can, ara boruwa dala, you can hide your income, you can do all of that. So it you can also say low compliance here, low tax compliance. So then you can give the advantage here, Lamai. Advantage here is difficult to evade, because whenever you buy a good Lamai, you have to pay this. Anything else? Direct taxes can, yes, you can say discourage savings, because now when you pay so much of taxes and all, now you don't have any money to save. It can discourage savings. You can talk about that. Tax evasion occurs a lot with direct taxes, correct. Tax burden can be transferred. Are they giving us advantage, disadvantage? It's a feature, but I don't know if it is. Yeah, so difficult to evade. A good thing of this one. And also, Lama, in indirect taxes, you can choose whether you want to pay it or not. Don't you think? Because indirect taxes, now let's say there is a VAT, or now you'll say in a vehicle, there are import duties. If you don't want to pay it, you don't buy the good, right? So consumers can choose whether to pay. So because if they don't want to pay, then they don't buy the good. Let's say, for example, you have huge taxes on vehicles. I don't want to pay that vehicle tax. So the mom vehicle like gun in it. But income taxes, if it's put on you, you have to pay. You can say that. Indirect transfer tax is okay, but not the best, I would say. Okay, give me demerits of indirect. That could be a merit law. So regressive, unfair, okay, fine. Anything else? The bad side of demerit indirect taxes. Yeah, cannot be easily predicted. That is a good one. So you can't easily predict now, because if you put a tax on vehicles, now that's a thing that our office also did. Now, when you had a tax on vehicles, now so many all of our clients are asking, okay, how much will government collect from this? It's all the government revenue for value and all. So it's not easy to predict the amount of vehicles that will come into the country. Different vehicles are charged at different tax levels. So it's not easy. So then we did some calculation. We told them, but it's difficult to predict. So cannot predict. That's a difficult part. Then discourages demand, discourages consumption. So when you put all of this, it discourages consumption, discourages people from spending. All of that happens. I would not say it is costly to collect. You can collect it easily. Reducing income tax. Anything else? Yes, can cause inflation. Right? You put this one, it can increase the price of goods. Yes, tax hidden within the goods, people might actually not know. Fine. So anything Lama, ideally, but I will recommend you don't have to give this many points. So ideally, 2 each should be okay. So because remember, Lama, in your L paper, the lowest they can give you is half a mark. There is nothing called a quarter mark. So half a mark, half a mark into 2, they'll give you 1 mark for the merits of direct. So 2 points are enough. Then 1, 1, 1, 1. That you will get your 4. So marking scheme should also have certain points you can repeat. Difficult to evade means difficult to not pay. Now, if you take, for example, indirect tax, you can't not pay. If you're buying a vehicle, import it automatically given, paid. If you go and eat in a restaurant, automatically VAT is paid. Now, direct taxes, you can show fake income and this and that, and you can evade it. You can talk about this. Cost of living increases, demerit for a indirect tax. Okay, right. That part is done. Then moving on to this one. 2022 question 3. Yes, discourage savings. You can give that to a direct tax demerit. What is meant by incidence of taxation? What is incidence of taxation? Incidence of taxation means when a tax is imposed. What is incidence of taxation? When a tax is imposed, who bears the tax? There is something who legally has to bear the tax, plus who actually ends up paying the tax. That is what called economic. That is called tax incidence. Tax incidence is what you break into 2. It's a tax incidence is who bears the tax when a tax is being put. So you put that, define that for 2 marks. Then distinguish between legal and economic tax incidents. Same thing was there before. So legal is what you call statutory tax incidents. And here this story. So same thing in 2012, part 2. Here they only ask for this. There they Podda gave you a subpart A and another subpart and asked the same thing. Here also distinguish between statutory and economic. They are also same. Statutory means legal. Huh? They are using a different word there. So 2012, question 7, part 2, same answer you can. So that is also done. Then 2023, this also we discussed now. What is meant by excess tax burden? Same thing was there before. So you put the give explanation. Since it's 2 marks, only explanation is enough. But if it's like a 4-mark question, then draw the diagram and show the deadweight loss also. Done. Right. That is all that we have. That was the easy one, no? Fiscal policy is revenue and expenditure. Not that bad. The next part is a bit difficult because it has a little bit more current context related questions. Okay. Hoping that's fine. If you want, you can take screenshots of these key economic indicators. In 24, I think there was no question. I think the question that was there is in the next focus area. If you want, you can take a screenshot. These are from the central bank report. These are there in the tutes as well. There is this. There is this. Composition of government revenue. There is this composition of recurrent expenditure. These are the in your tutes. I'm just saying Feynman doesn't have my tutes and all. And then the revenue and expenditure as a percentage of GDP and all, how it has been going up. Okay. 2022. This one, the A part is tax incidences. Where tax incidence means who bears the tax. When a tax is being imposed, who bears the tax? Who is legal responsible of bearing it, plus who actually bears it. That's what that part is about. Low complaining demerits. Low complaint in the sense, low compliance. No, demerit will not have low compliance. I didn't say complain anywhere, right? So it has been compliance in this. Okay. Right. So with that, I will call it off. Can I explain commercial bank trade creation? Because trade creation is a complete different topic. We did a special seminar also for 5 hours talking about it. Not something I can explain in 5 minutes. There is a YouTube video also on it, Lama. You can go back to that on my this thing. I would have shared it multiple times on the group. Okay, so with that, I will call it off. If anyone has any questions, you can stay and clarify. The others, I will see you all again at 8:30 for the last focus area, that is focus area 28. That is on government debt, primary balances, overall balance, the budget stories, all of that. So take a break and come. See you at 8:30.